Hello. Last time we left off, Estellevarta had just left her people. Well, she wasn't quite sure what to do. She was very, very angry, and despite her vast intelligence, she didn't take as much forethought as she should have when she left. Of course, she had her pack filled with all that she could, and her magic could provide her with most that she needed. But she focused a little more on her vanities than she should have practical items. Well, as she progressed, she thought, what shall I do? Well, her options were limited, but her first thought was the humans, because with her knowledge of magic, she could always train the wealthy human children in the arts of magic and live a very, very nice life. The problem is with the humans is they live so fast and die. It's so much constant change. It's a bit troubling to the elf mind. The elves like stability, long term. You know, they will plant an entire forest just so it can make a certain shape of harmony that, though they can't fly above and see it except by the greatest of magics, they know it's there, and it's a certain sense of tranquility in the elven heart. They crave this sort of stability. Well, with the humans, she wouldn't get that, and she went through pondering, and one day when she was quite dirty, she had reached near the main road, and she came across something that was completely unexpected, and it was an event that would go on that would change the entire world. In a small clearing, fighting over a deer carcass, she saw 5 creatures. They looked dragon-like, but they also looked like men, and she immediately knew what they were. The humans call them dragon men, but our tongues cannot actually pronounce their names, since we to them are such simple creatures, and linguistically we are, for a dragon can speak a myriad of human, elven, dwarven, and many other tongues, while our tongues, as you know, are very limited compared to such. Well, first I must digress a little bit into legend. The legend of the dragon's teeth. The legend of the dragon's teeth is, if you take the dragon's teeth after he's dead and you plant them in the ground, warriors will pop up. Well, this has come down to us in mystical lore of many, many tomes. But the truth of the matter is, it's not human warriors that pop up from dragon's teeth. It's what humans call dragon men. Well, apparently a young wizard had gotten a hold of a bunch of these teeth from his master. And, of course, with the legends, he thought that when he needed them, he would plop them into the ground and warriors would rise up. Well, they did rise up. About a year later after he planted him, long after the bandits had slain him, which was quite embarrassing for the wizard, screaming, "Arise, arise," as they were coming at him with swords drawn, and nothing happened. But around a year later, 5 figures did rise. 2 of them were red, 1 was blue, 1 was yellow, and 1 was black as night. Now, she could tell that they were very young for many things. 1, they were completely unadorned, they had no weapons, and they acted like savages ripping apart a carcass. Well, the larger of the red ones noticed her first and raised his head, where every other creature before had met his gaze with fear. this was the first creature he ever saw that was not afraid of him, and that drew his attention. He had already beaten his brothers and sisters into submission and gained control of their little clutch, basically becoming its captain, because under a dragon ruler, that's what they would have became, is bodyguards, and the chief of the clutch would be their sergeant, their captain. And our beautiful elven princess just realized that she had found something more valuable than gold. Allies in her moment of need. Allies that she could shape their minds. Show them the world under her tutelage. They could see the world through her eyes. And she smiled. Well, the black one, which would seem to be female, immediately wanted to eat Estellevarta. But the red one, being their alpha, stopped her. And over the next days, Estellevarta communicated with him, for she had many, many spells, and she could talk to the mind. They were shocked at first when voices came into their heads. But by quickly picking up objects and putting voices into the mind, she was able to quickly start teaching them the rudiments of language. And they made their own camp. And over time, she taught them to be people, to be living sentient beings. And to each of them she gave a name. To the leader, she named him Draco. Of course, for the dragon. And he breathed fire, and he was red. His younger brother, Talon, was almost as big and looked much like his brother, Draco. But he is distinct as his talon-like nails were just so much longer than all the rest, and she named him Talon. The blue one, he breathed cold and ice and snow if he wished, and she named him Frost, because when he would blow out snow, he could create a fog and a mist all around, and the entire air would freeze in a frost. Everything around would feel the effect of the cold. Because despite being smaller creatures, they still had their own unique dragon's breath. And it doesn't matter the color of the dragon or what they breathe. They could breathe anything, and they can be any color. That is the randomness of these chaos creatures. The black one, she named Nightshade. And she would end up a very powerful female because she breathed a black poisonous gas, which is one of the most prized breaths of any of dragonkind. Now, the yellow one, she had a very rare weapon. She named her Saffron for one of her favorite rare flowers, because Estellevarta did love flowers. She also called them her favorite thing, and she had to restrain herself from giving them all a name corresponding to a flower, but she thought it would be unbecoming for the tasks at hand. Well, Saffron, she breathed pure energy in a lance. There was no tower, no wall, no human, elven, or dwarven construction could resist the bolt of her breath. She was the ultimate siege weapon, with the fact she could fly. In over 2 years, she taught them language. She traded with some local elves. After all, She went into self-exile. She wasn't forced into exile. And she gained them weapons, taught them magic, taught them how to use the weapons as she had been taught. And especially the dragon men, being young, were at their most lithe stage before they put on heavy muscle, so the fighting style fit them well. And with that, she decided that she would go out and she would change the world. And this is where I'll end this chapter, and I'll talk to you soon.